actions and in truth. You may be seated. Let us pray. Father, as we hear your message this morning, I thank you that you are using Ruth's word this morning to help us understand what it means to love sacrificially. I thank you for this dear family and their ministry to hundreds, as well as the ministry of each person sitting here. May we understand what it means to love as Easter people when we walk out of here this morning. In your name we pray. Amen. This passage in John is an amazing passage. Let us love not with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. Mother's Day is a day where we say, I love you, Mom. And I remember years when my kids, when they'd say that, but they were up to no good at the same time. And so I understand firsthand what it means to say one thing and act another. Jesus was the real deal. He ministered on this earth for a very short time, but during his whole ministry, his focus was on that cross. His entire focus would culminate with his giving his life up for you and for me. His entire time on earth was spent on teaching and healing and showing humankind just who God is. He spent his entire life surrounded by crowds. Some loved him, some couldn't stand him. These people followed him wherever he went. Some crowds were in awe of him. Others yelled at him and mocked him. Some literally grabbed his clothes, trying to be healed by just touching him. But then there were others that ripped his clothes off his body and gambled them away. Jesus bore the weight of the weight of his cross as he carried it all the way to Golgotha until Simon helped him. But he carried the weight. He endured the nails, the hammer sounds, being strung up on a cross like a common criminal. And he hung there, 30-something years old, as a sacrifice for us. There is no greater love than this, than Jesus giving his life up for us. There is no greater love. There's no greater love than the fact that he died to pay the price for our sins so that we could one day enjoy the splendors of heaven. But this verse says we are to lay down our life for our friends. And what does that mean? I'm pretty sure it doesn't involve a cross. I don't think we're supposed to go out there and hang on a cross. So what does it look like if we lay down our lives for our friends? One thing I'm certain of, and it does require sacrifice. Sacrificial love. Easter people love sacrificially. We don't love when it's convenient. We don't love because someone is kind to us and we love them back. Easter people love sacrificially. Easter people love till it hurts. Easter people put themselves aside and love others more than they love themselves. Easter people are able to love others well because they love Jesus most of all. When you understand the massive love that Christ has for you, only then can you show that love to others. That's enough for me. I want to share with you this morning a wonderful example of Easter people kind of love. I'm going to ask Ruth DeVries to come up, and her and Ron and their family shared their home over many, many, many years because they could. They loved hundreds of children because they know that Jesus loved them more. And so I'm going to invite Ruth to come up, and they have their beautiful family with them. And you guys are going to have questions, but we're going to invite you to ask the questions during the coffee time, if that would be okay. So I'm up here all the time. I'm going to zip it up. And Ruth, I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Happy Mother's Day, all of you, to all of your mothers.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to read to you from Romans 28, 8, verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to those that love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. When I was a young girl, one of the answers to my catechism question was this verse. And the pastor said to me, Ruth, you take this verse with you all your life. And I have done that. And now I can look back and see how the Lord has guided my life and has been with me throughout everything, even the hard times, the black times of life. And I have had some black times. When I was a little girl, people would always ask me, probably you too, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I always said a mother. I had 2 older brothers, and I always prayed for a baby sister. Every night I prayed for a baby sister. And I believe that my prayers were answered when my parents became licensed foster parents for Bethany Christian Home in Grand Rapids, Michigan. My parents were one of the very first foster parents. Oh, I love those babies. My mother taught me so well. My mother passed away when I was only 22 years old. It was so hard for me to say goodbye. I didn't know if I could go on without her. But I promised God, somehow, some way, I'm going to carry on your work. But you know, life goes on, and then I forgot. And so God had to remind me that he wanted me to carry on with her work. In 1964, Ron and I moved to California with our 4 children. We were busy raising them. And in 1967, we decided to become foster parents. And so I called LA Department of Adoptions to get a license. Bethany Home wasn't in California yet at that time, so we could not go to them. So it took us about a year to get licensed. The strict rules of licensing are still amaze me. And it's even worse today. It's very hard. They're very strict. On May 1st of that year, our very first baby arrived. I always loved that little guy. His picture is over there on the table. If you want to take a look at it pretty soon. Then the day came that we had to say goodbye. And I couldn't do it. He was my baby, nobody else's. He was mine. And it was very hard. And then we got another baby, and another. And finally I passed out in the bathroom, broke my nose, smashed my face all up. And I just said, Lord, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. I can't do it. And then our pastor down the dog helped me through this, and he reminded me that our children are not our own. They belong to him. And he gives them to us for just a little while. And so I learned to give it to God. And every time a baby left, I say, Lord, you do it. I can't do it. And ever since then, the Lord made it so much easier for us. I can't say that it was ever easy, but we could do it because the Lord was with us. Many years later, when I was giving classes for foster parents at Cypress College, I made one of my sessions the grief of losing a foster child. This is a subject that is not addressed at all in foster care. When a child from a believing family is taken, the family all gathers around and the friends, and they're all there to help you through it. But when the foster mother loses her baby, she's alone. You're alone with the Lord. So many times it was said to me, you really don't love them like your own, otherwise you couldn't part with them. And that is so untrue, because you do love them. You love those babies, every one of them. One day, we were at a conference here in California, and a lady in a brown suit came up to me and she said, here, this is for you. And I took it, and she was gone. And I read it, and I'm going to read it to you. I believe that lady was an angel today, and I believe it was Jesus telling me this. Will you take this child from me? Will you love her while you may? I've touched her with my sunshine, with a golden tender ray. Can you hold her close for me and teach her how to pray? Can you love a child not born of you? If her eyes are brown, my ears are blue. And should there be a cross to bear if I should send her, will you share it? The best of all my love and care, the grace, the love, the strength, I'll give it all. And will you give her back if I should fall? Give me your tears, your pain, all your care upon me cast. I'll carry it all for you if only you will ask. I'm coming back again much sooner than you think. And I'll remember in my name even a cold drink. Much love I have to give, but for this place and time, will you, with your love, freely give her mine? Many precious ones I have, they are included too. When I said, love one another, even as I have loved you. As time went on, we had many more sick children, many birth defects, many broken arms and legs. And in the 80s, FAS and fetal alcohol syndrome babies were identified, and drug babies came on the scene. And before this, Ron and I would take the babies from doctor to doctor, to specialist. No one could identify what was wrong with these babies. There was a pediatrician at UCLA that noticed that there was a connection between the babies in the nursery that were looking up at the ceiling screaming and the drug mothers. They belonged to the drug mothers. So she put it together that was a symptom of drug babies. So she started holding classes for us foster parents. That was in the 80s. So that we would know how to take care of them and keep them calm. Little Maria was brought to us. She had been left in the back bedroom. Her mother, in a very depressed state, had just left her there and forgot to feed her, change her, just left her. And a neighbor called the police, and the police found her just before she died. And in the hospital, the social worker called me and she said, I have a little baby girl here. She said, if the doctor says that if you find a mother that will hold this little baby through the night, she has a chance to live. She said, I thought of you. Would you take her? And I said, oh, bring her to us. So she did. The baby arrived. I was not prepared for what I seen. Little Maria had grown the length of an 8-month-old baby, but she was a mere 8 pounds. You could count all her ribs. Couldn't hold her head up. And so the weeks and the days passed, and she just grew so healthy and chubby and beautiful. And then the day came that we had to take her back to the hospital. The doctor had found that her hips were out of place. And so we had to take her back to get her body cast. When we arrived at the hospital, the doctor took the x-rays and came in and he said, these are the x-rays that you took when she came to the hospital. And he said, these are the x-rays today. He said, she's completely healed. She doesn't need a body cast. Social services made the decision to give her back to her mother. Our son said, but Mom, that can't be, because she's been taking care of her, and she just can't go back to mom. And I said, well, Ron, I said, let's remember that God brought little Maria here just before she died. And he loves her so much, he made her so healthy. He said, he's not going to leave her now. He's going to go with her all the time. And I truly believe that she was in his care all of her life. Our smallest baby was 1 pound and 2 ounces. This was 40 years ago. And indeed a miracle, because 40 years ago, 1 pound babies didn't live. But 40 did. And so we got him home. He had to be fed every 2 hours, day and night. And one night, I fed little Corey in the middle of the night, and I laid him down after I fed him. And I laid down and I couldn't go to sleep. And I thought, well, this is crazy, because the Lord gave me the ability to go to sleep immediately when I had a baby. And so I got up and I picked up Corey, and Corey said to me, take his temperature. And so I know, okay, I'll take his temperature. And so I did. I took his temperature, and it was down just a little bit. So I thought, well, seems to be okay. He was breathing fine. So I laid him down, and I lay back down, but I couldn't go to sleep. So I got back up, and I picked him up, and I took his temperature again. Well, he said to me, take it again. So I did. And I took his temperature again, and it was down a little more. So I called the pediatrician. She said, well, I just seen him this afternoon, and he was fine. And she said, if you think something's wrong, she said, you take him to the Memorial Hospital. So I did. I woke up Ron and went to the hospital we went. As I was walking into the emergency room door, Corey stopped breathing, and then his heart stopped. They got the paddles on him, and he hooked him up to all his machines and back in intensive care. And he was there for many weeks, till finally he could come home. So the doctor told us that he was completely blind. So when he was around 6 months old, we had a musical at our church. It was called Let There Be Light. All our children were in this musical. I was sitting in the audience holding Corey, who was sleeping. And the first song was the musical where I said, what would the world be like if there was no light? And it went on to say, it would be so dark, everything would be dark. And I looked at Corey and I thought, oh, Corey, this is your world. Corey said. And so I prayed. I said, God, please let Corey see. Lord, please let Corey see. And then I forgot about it. The next morning I went in to pick up Corey, and he looked right at me and smiled. Gave me the biggest smile, and he smiled all through his back. That afternoon, when the children came home from school, one by one they went up to Corey. And the kids would come running to me. Mom, I think Corey sees. He's looking right at me and he's smiling. I said, I know. And so finally, at the dinner table that night, I told the kids, I said, what had happened the night before and how I prayed for little Corey and how the Lord had saved him. One morning, the phone rang. They had a little boy, 3 years old. His mother that morning had put his arms in boiling water to hear in both arms. Social worker said, I don't know how bad it is because I haven't seen him yet, but I'll bring him over. When he got to our house, I seen he was bandaged all the way up to here, so I took him right to a pediatrician. Pediatrician started taking his bandages off, and all the skin came right off the bandages. Little Jimmy went right into shock. We got him to the hospital in the burn ward. The doctor came in and he said, we have to take Jimmy to surgery now because his fingers are all fused and all like that. So we have to loosen the fingers so that he'll move his hand. So they did that. Little Jimmy, he suffered for many, many weeks. He finally became a healthy little guy, a normal little 3-year-old. And he was later adopted to a beautiful Christian family. Phone rang, they had a baby boy. He was in a bottle cast. His daddy had thrown him against the wall. And so when we got to the hospital, the doctor said, oh, I forgot to tell you, he's also blind. His care was so difficult. He was so heavy to hold. And every other day I'd have to take him back to UCI for a new body test. But as the weeks went on, his eyesight returned. He could hold his head up. He sat up, he started to crawl, and then he started to walk. That little guy was so healthy. We said our goodbyes on a Friday evening, and Ron and I left for a meeting in Sacramento. And when we came back on Sunday night, the kids all met us at the front door. Mom, Dad, baby's parents have been calling here all afternoon. And I said, oh, she probably just has a question to ask me. It's all right. And so I called her right away. And she said, this is a child from hell. And I said, oh, bring him home. Bring him home right now. So she did. He was sleeping when he got home. So I laid him in his little crib. Next morning when I went to bathe him, taking his clothes off, I found that he was badly beaten. So I left right away and went to the pediatrician. The doctor immediately called the police, and the police took over in that time. So he just did so well after that, and finally he was later adopted. adopted to a wonderful Christian family up north. So we were very, very thankful to the Lord for him. For many years we did the emergency program. This is when the police bring the children right to the house in the middle of the night or the daytime, whenever they find them. They come right from the drug houses and communes. One baby came with all prickers in his hair, and a blanket, and his clothes, all prickers. We just saw the prickers. One Saturday, we gave our friends a 25th wedding anniversary party. We had a big party, over 100 were there. We had dancing and a band in the backyard. So we invited all the neighbors so no one would complain about the noise. And we were just having a great time. About midnight, the phone rang. The police had a baby boy. We had just found him. He was 6 months old. They had just found him in Lakewood Mall. The foot mall closed and he was left. And so I said, bring him over, we're having a party, but that's okay, just join us. And so they came and brought the baby. And the music stopped, the dancing stopped, everyone gathered around and started cleaning him up and fed him and got him all safe to sleep in his bed. He'll be forever known as the baby that arrived in the middle of the night. He was later raised by an aunt and uncle. Through the 40 years as foster parents, we adopted 4 children. Roxanne, she's in the audience here. That's our Roxanne. She had a kidney transplant at 1 year of age. And she's had problems ever since. That's our little Kieran, that's our youngest grandchild. And then we have Jennifer, who we adopted. She's now 28. Her picture is over there on the table too. And she lives in Colorado with our youngest of our own 4 children. Natalie, she's sitting here, you know Natalie. She was a little 2-pound baby girl. And for 18 years, she had central apnea. She would stop breathing every single night, about 8 times a night. So Ron and I had to sleep right when we could get to her. We stayed right by her bedside for 18 years, day and night. Nikki, that's our Nikki. You know Nikki? She was the best cheerleader you've ever seen. So we still have 2 children at home yet. But I have to tell you about Natalie. When she was 18, all of a sudden, she had no more smell, no more central apnea. All 3 machines are gone. For 18 years, we lived with those machines going, and they're gone. She's completely healed. I always said I think I spent half of my life in doctors' waiting rooms and offices and hospitals. We have had 8 sets of twins. Our greatest joy was a set of triplets on the table over there. We would go to the hospital every day after they were born and feed them and take care of them. And finally the day came we could take one home. And then the day came and they said, second one would go home. So we got to the hospital to take her home. And the third one was gone. The little basket was empty. And we said, what happened? What? And they said, well, we didn't think that we could take care of 3, so we put her in another home. So Ron and I immediately went to Sacramento Board, and they made social services to place all 3 with us. And so we had all 3 of them. And then they were later adopted all 3 together. So they're in their teenage years now. So when asked me what year that was, and I was thinking as I was sitting there, they were a little older than Nikki, so probably about 15 years. I used to place all the babies in their circle chairs around the TV on Sunday mornings, and I'd say, it's time for Uncle Bob, it's time for church. And we seldom had cries during that time. We had 3 swings standing in our dining room. And now when people come in, they say, this place just isn't the same anymore. We have been honored at county level, at state level, at national level, congressional honor in the Rose Garden of White House. But you know, all the praise and glory goes to our wonderful Lord. I could have not done any of it if it had not been for Him right beside us all the way. I have a very special song that means so special to me. I'd like to share it with you. It's called My Tribute. How can I say thanks for all the things you have done for me? Things so undeserved that you gave your love for me. The voices of a million years could not express my gratitude. All that I am and ever hope to be, I owe it all to you. To God be the glory. With His blood He has saved me. With His power He has raised me. Just let me live my life, and let it be pleasing, Lord, to you. And if I gain any praise, let it go to Calvary. To God be the glory. Thank you.
I have no human words, but I have these words from 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. I hope that you were all blessed by Ruth and Ron's story. And I hope that that's the model of sacrificial love that you'll carry with you this morning as Easter people. As we close our service, if you could stand with me and sing Because He Lives, because I believe with all my heart, Ron and Ruth, the only way you could do what you did is going to be Jesus. Let's sing together.